Let's talk Jinx. A weekly Jinx video we do every Wednesday about anything to do with Jinx, as well as this video acting as a weekly discussion thread on the Jinx subreddit, our League of Jinx. Make sure to go check that out. Now, usually when a new patch drops, we talk about that patch and the changes it will bring to like Jinx or maybe other AD carries, because that will affect like the Jinx and that AD carries matchup and stuff like that. This particular case, it's the Wild West because it's preseason time. So instead what we're going to kind of do is look at the changes that are going to be happening like to the AD carry role and stuff, and then theory craft how that will kind of affect Jinx, what we might want to do as a Jinx, because like crit items and stuff are changing. And so if you've never heard of any of this stuff, what this video is going to kind of be is breaking down some of the highlights from patch 9.23 that's coming, and of course how it affects not just AD carries, but of course Jinx specifically as a Jinx channel. It's kind of going to be a little bit of a different video for that matter too, which is why we can have like the screen sharing, and I can just have the patch notes open right now on the tab and everything, right? It basically, this first part is just the preseason time. We scroll down to preseason spotlight, it has a video, and it has like, you know, highlights and stuff like the victorious Aatrox skin and all that that's coming in this season, etc, etc. One of the first things that it might be worth to note is the elemental rifts. If you don't know about this, basically in the preseason, they're making dragons a bit more impactful. After the second elemental dragon dies in the game, the map will permanently transform based off of whatever the third dragon that is spawning. And so off the top of my head, if it's a cloud dragon that's spawning, like different paths through the jungle become kind of like wind tunnels. That'll give you increased movement speed, probably to help with roaming and stuff like that. If it's an Inferno Drake, certain parts of the map get burned down, like around red buff, all the walls kind of get burned down, and certain brushes and stuff get burned down. So if you're playing against Rengar, he has like less brushes to dump against you and kind of try and kill you that way. But on the flip side of the coin, if you're playing against Ocean Drake, it actually spawns more brushes across the map, so that kind of negates that a little bit. And then Mountain Drake spawns like more, they're like small walls, but walls nonetheless around the Dragon Pit, and also throughout the jungle too, to kind of fight around, hide around, and stuff like that. So it's like actual terrain changes depending on the dragons. And of course, I think there's also elements and stuff that happen too. Like here's Inferno Drake, and as you see, red buff has kind of been burned down. The buff will still exist, but the area is gone. And I bring up that just because, you know, like AD carries sometimes get gifted the red buff and stuff like that. And also dragon priority. So this means bot lane, Jinx, and other AD carries in general, bot lane is going to be contested, if not more than it already is when it comes to dragons, because there could be like a high impact to, if nothing else, get the first two dragons out the way to kind of transform the map that might give your team the advantage. Like maybe you work really well with more oceans because more, you know, brushes and stuff benefit you. So you want to kind of get those two dragons out the way. You'll gank bot early and stuff like that, maybe to get that out the way as well. So we also see Mountain Drake. There's like more walls just kind of throughout the stuff. Ocean Drake, more brushes again. Oh, it also rains too, which is kind of a nice touch if you like overcast weather, kind of that rainy fall weather we're getting into. And then Cloud Drake, this is what it means, especially around the red buff and stuff. These are wind tunnels. So if you're playing mid lane Jinx or just anything, you want to roam bot, or if you're roaming bot, or I should say, if you are bot with your support, you kind of won the lane a bit and you want to roam mid to gank or something, that could be something spicy you could try if you have like a Thresh or Leona, something with some hard CC and your Flame Chompers. Another thing in bot lane is there will be these side lane alcoves, which are kind of adding a little bit of a balcony, and the general idea is they kind of want to allow more playmaking opportunities, especially in the top lane. But they also put it in the bot lane because 3 brushes, according to August Browning, the kit designer for Jinx, is actually good for melee bot laners. So this might actually allow melee champions to be in the bottom lane since they have the equal amount of brushes and the coves and the stuff like that to play around a bit as well. There might be another reason it might be good for melee bot laners as well, and we'll get into that in a little bit. There's also like an extra brush around the river entrance, so just that's something to note too. I don't know if that really affects Jinx directly, so we can kind of skip that. There's also these elemental soul stuff, but I'm trying to keep this video somewhat short and concise to Jinx and maybe AD carries specifically. So there's like a lot of stuff going on. I will briefly talk about the top lane influence, the Rift Herald. There's actually going to be 2 Rift Heralds that will spawn. There's going to be the first Rift Herald, and if you kill it when it spawns initially, there'll be enough time that passes for a second one to spawn, because top laner influence. Like top lane influence, Riot's heard top lane's not influential, all that stuff. They're doing something about it. I have a theory though, and I want to pass it off to you guys as we go into the rest of the stuff. Do you think instead what that'll actually do, if there's going to be multiple Rift Heralds, is like top and bot lane will just swap? Because then you're going to want the AD carry and the support already up there to DPS down multiple Rift Heralds, kind of use multiple times, and then have the melee champion go bottom lane, because now with the extra brush and stuff, you kind of have the same lane a bit as it was top lane. And then also dragon control, because maybe people won't want to get that third dragon ASAP, and dragons will actually have a little bit less of an impact and influence, and so you want to move the bot lane up to the top lane. I don't think that's going to happen, that's just a theory. a game theory or whatever people would say in this scenario. But yeah, that's something I want to throw at you guys. Do you actually think though, because like when there's just one, you're not gonna probably rotate your top or your bottom lane up there. But like with dragons, you will see top laners TP bot for that instance. But will it flip now because there's multiple Rift Heralds? I don't think so personally, but it's something I've seen kind of kicked around a bit. So I thought I'd just ask you guys. This is a bit of a bigger one. Minion XP. We're very lightly adjusting minion XP to slightly equalize the influence top and bot laners have in the game. Solo laners will level about 2% faster from minions, while duo laners or solo laners getting non-stop jungler attention will level about 2% slower. Put another way, every 5 waves adds up to an extra caster minion for solo laners and 1 fewer for bot laners. So basically we're kind of going back to, this actually really isn't new at all, like a new concept completely. It's going back to when like solo laners seem to get levels ahead of the bottom lane. And this I think has to do with the fact that people have been saying how influential bottom lane is and how overpowered bottom lane is and stuff like that. Obviously people have different opinions on that, but still nonetheless, it's a thing. Turret plating. A slight buffing turret plating durability to prevent group and push blowouts in the early game, especially with the Rift Herald changes in mind. See, this is initially what I thought turret plating was going to be a little bit more like last year when it was introduced. The turret plating was actually going to be kind of like shields on the towers, and they're still not doing that change here, but they are making the tower plates like a little bit more beefier. Which is why I got yelled at last year when I predicted it was going to be like an early game assassin meta, and I ended up being right, mind you. I'm not like biased or holding that pridefully or anything, but I did predict that because then turret plates end up actually just being the turret's health actually instead of turret plates on top of the towers. But if they are going to be stronger with armor and magic resist, you might want more of these like tower demolishing AD carries and maybe Ziggs in the game to kind of deal with that if you want to shove that down faster, right? Like people love faster metas. Well, you might need a Jinx to DPS that down, or a Tristana, like I said, Ziggs, especially with the Rift Herald changes to knock those down a bit more often. So you might actually see her have some kind of benefit, not maybe in the meta itself, in terms of team fighting and anything else like that, especially with assassin changes, which we might get into, but because she will be one of the better AD carries than to shove down towers, both with her range and her minigun DPS. The fact that she's like a tower demolisher alongside a few AD carries in the class. That might be something that actually makes her a bit relevant, so that could be actually a little bit exciting. There's some jungle pacing stuff. We'll briefly touch on the lethality item stuff, especially because I did see those like a lethality Jinx post on the front page of the Jinx subreddit, which was interesting. I think it had to do with Earth when Earth was around, but in any case, they're adding a bunch more lethality items. And at this point, what they're also doing is they're saying, hey, if you have, say, Duskblade and Ghostblade, you kind of get an extra lethality stat from having 2 lethality items together, so that way you can kind of build other items in case the game dictates that you as an assassin, maybe you can't assassinate your target. It's got to a certain point where you got outscaled, whatever. Well, now you can also have extra item slots to build other stuff and kind of adapt to the game. And so I guess if you are playing like lethality Jinx, especially like on ARAM or something like that too, you have some more lethality items to play around with as well. The Sanguine Blade, I can never pronounce this right by the way, but the blade that's coming in. Umbro Glaive, which is like it was going to be like a Hydra item, but now it's just a serrated Dirk item. There's like 5 lethality items, and then of course the classic, you just build the 6th item as a serrated Dirk also, by the way. Here we go. Here's the part of the video you're actually here for. Energized and crit items. We've struggled in the past to differentiate energized builds from traditional crit, given that Static Shift and Rapid Fire Cannon occupy both spaces and the only other energized item is Storm Razor. This time we're embracing the overlap, and the goal of our changes is to make Energized a slightly more mid-game oriented flavor of crit, rather than its own thing entirely. Energized is about the occasional massive hit rather than a non-stop barrage of consistent strong attacks. To that end, we're lowering the gap between how many procs users get from moving versus attacking. Attack speed was giving drastically more procs, making hit and run playstyles too ineffective by comparison. One trend you'll notice in the items below is a simplification of individual item passes, particularly ones that change how Energized behaves. Each item now adds one or just one additional effect. Storm Razor's Slow, Rapid Fire Cannon's Rage, and Shiv's Lightning, and the proc damage has been standardized to a flat 120 on each item. All other mechanics changes have been removed or rolled into Energized's baseline functionality, so each item can stand on its own rather than require other items to become fully effective. So, Energized. Zap. Damage from Energized effects now stacks rather than choosing the highest damage source. Keep moving. Energized charges are moving increased by 20%, charges from attack reduced by 50%, and Demolitionist. Energized effects now always work on turns. We kind of talked about that a little bit with Jinx and stuff. This might become something in her meta build going into Season 10, and that might, again, make her a bit more useful. She might be pretty good. despite all the people saying, AD carries getting gutted because of the XP changes, assassins, etc, etc. It might not be that bad for specific AD carries, and Jinx might be one of them. We'll see. Updated Storm Razor. Energized damage increased, slow is stronger but shorter, now grants crit chance. Attack damage, attack speed decreased, build path updated, cost increased. The absence of crit chance on Storm Razor was the biggest impediment toward Energized working as a crit variant. Adding it in means players can go for Energized builds without having to trade away their crit progression. Per the simplification note above, we've removed Storm Razor's amp on other Energized sources, and sharpened its slow to stronger, short effect that offers more play around opportunities. So things like the cost is being changed, the build path is being changed, the attack damage is being changed, they're adding crit strike, and it no longer amplifies other Energized effects by 35%. Rapid Fire Cannon. Energized damage higher early but lower later. No longer increases Energized charge rates. We're leaving Rapid Fire Cannon's rates increase as its defining feature and making its turret's functionality baseline for Energized. Its charge rate increase is going away per our earlier comments on not wanting an Energized item strength to be tied to how many other items in the system you own. So the Energized damage, instead of going from 60 to 140 throughout your level scaling, will just be a flat 120 from the get-go. When it's being removed, it's going to no longer cause Energized effects to work on turrets because that's like a baseline functionality now. And it no longer increases your Energized charge rate. So that's one of the things you would build Rapid Fire Cannon for, is because if you had Static Shiv, it makes Static Shiv or Fleet Footwork and stuff charge like 30% faster or something like that. That's being removed. Static Shiv, this one's kind of contended a little bit, or not really argued about, but discussed quite a bit, because they're kind of wondering, why buy Static Shiv then if you have enough AoE in your kit anyways, right? Static Shiv, the Energized damage is higher earlier or later, lightning bounces increase, but lightning no longer crits. Shiv still makes lightning, but we're removing the ability for lightning to crit. This is particularly for the crit versus Energized split we've talked about already, but also because fully stacked Energized items, 360 damage, gets you more power, i.e. Shiv crits did previously, which was only 325 damage, so that extra 35 damage. Since this is still an early to mid-game nerf, we're also folding Storm Razor's old bounce increase, into Shiv's baseline. This is also a good time to remind you that Shiv no longer needs Rapid Fire Cannon to proc on turrets. So apparently it will proc on turrets. I don't know if it means like the damned lightning proc will just stay on the turret, or if there's enemies and minions near, the lightning will actually bounce off the turret and also hit them. That could be kind of cool, especially when someone's like recalling, they're not paying attention, they're low on health, and you just go up, shoot it with a rocket, and the lightning bounces to them, like a Volibear ultimate or something like that. That could be kind of interesting, but yeah, it basically... the lightning won't crit. You'll still probably have enough damage, and it still probably will be useful for AoE and team fights, especially if you don't have AoE, but also for clearing minion waves. If you already have AoE, you're probably not building this item first. You're probably building like an Infinity Edge or some other items that will give you some more stats that will help you clear waves anyway, so it probably isn't that bad, but it is something to talk about because some people might like literally build this item for the wave clear, because maybe the AD carry they play doesn't have a lot of like wave clear in their kit. Like that might be the reason why sometimes Vayne's meta build was Rapid Fire Static Shiv, to give her a bit more wave clear. That's not really Jinx, so we don't have to really talk about that. We can just keep it moving then. Kerchess Shard. I always pronounce that wrong. Energized damage increase, cost increase. We're making Kerchess Shard's Energized proc more powerful, so it feels more like you're staring down the Energized path when you pick it up. It was already effective costed though, so we had to bump up its price a little bit. Basically, they're increasing the gold cost, and the Energized damage is also going up as well. Now here's where it starts to get kind of spicy. Brawler's Glove. It's now being removed. So instead, remember Cloak of Agility, the thing that was removed and it fought its way back into being like not removed, and now it got Brawler's Glove clicked out instead? Its crit chance is being increased. The good news is we're buffing Cloak. It now gives the same amount of crit as a completed item. So if you need to hit the crit cap in a hurry, just layer a few of those on. Probably don't do this, but the option's here if you want to experiment. The crit chance is going up to 25%. Yasuo. But also on Jinx, what it means is it's an item that costs 800 gold that you can like buy 3 of, and they will build into other stuff eventually anyways, and you just get 75% crit chance. Now granted, crit is only really powerful because of all the AD that's behind it, right? If you have like 5 AD and you're critting, you're only doing like 10 damage. It's not that much. It's because of the AD you build behind it. But at the same time, because of the way AD's based, like AD scales, AD carries, I should say, base AD scales. Let's not get that tongue twisted, my bad. Right, like depending on what level you're at, you're gonna have some AD above 50, and so if you're critting a lot in the early game specifically, right, because we're talking early game here, before you really fleshed out your items, you could still be critting like into the 100s into the 120s, 30s, 40s, etc. while you're still building like that first like BF sword and stuff like that. And basically by the time you get that first BF sword and you really get that Infinity Edge, you could have 75% crit chance possibly and kind of get rolling a bit earlier in the mid game, especially because Jinx specifically. A lot of people look at her as like a late game champion. To kind of paraphrase August Browning, it's not verbatim, so please don't blame him if you end up disagreeing with the statement, but the concept actually for Jinx is she's a bit more of a mid-game snowbally champion, right? Like if you're playing her right, or if you're playing her to like the best of her ability, you're hopefully actually snowballing off of the laning phase and then just rolling through the mid-game, knocking down objectives everywhere, and kind of ending the game kind of at a decent early time. Now obviously like at 15 minutes, but like it shouldn't actually go to the late game if you're snowballing on Jinx correctly. The thing about Jinx is that if it does go late game though, because of her scalings, she'll still be fine, but the game's also a lot more stressful at that point too. Things that you can kill could probably also kill you just as fast, and you probably hopefully snowball the game instead. So with that being said, that's why this change is kind of being talked about in a bit of an exciting way, because it kind of allows you, it's not like an automatic you have to opt in option, but you could maybe experiment with using that as something of a snowballing option to bump up your damage, especially after your Infinity Edge buy. And now, maybe not, right? Like I'm throwing these theories out here for talking points so that we can have different things to talk about, not because like I'm 100% right on these or this like 100% confirmed fact or anything like that, but like it's something to think about, right? Especially as we move on into the Zeile change. Crit increased, attack speed decreased, build path updated, cost increased. Zeile's crit stats got a lot bigger from switching to Cloak of Agility. We dropped its attack speed a bit so we could avoid having to raise its cost too much to keep it balanced. So the cost is going up to 1400 gold. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Zeile item, it used to cost at least 1300 back in the day, right? It was 1300 or 1400, so it might be closer to a return to what it used to be way back when like IE was like freaking 380 gold and stuff like that. But yeah, it's Cloak of Agility, Dagger, 300 gold. The crit chance is going up to 25%, and the attack speed is going down to 12%, but the movement speed is still 5, which is unchanged. But like again, it's something that builds out of Cloak of Agility. And one thing you'll notice, another reason people are excited by Cloak of Agility is Zeile items will only give you that 25% crit chance, and that's all from the Cloak of Agility. So you don't even need to complete the Zeile item for the crit chance you probably usually get a Zeile item for if you're just sitting on a Zeile while you complete your damage. So again, if anything, your power spike might be a little bit cheaper in the snowballing aspect because of this. Again, we're gonna have to wait to get our hands on the PvE and stuff like that to really know. I haven't had the chance to go play Jinx in the PvE yet at the point of recording this video to really give you like feedback specifically. But by the time this video goes up on the subreddit, maybe someone that does have a PvE account, if it's on the PvE yet, it might not be till next week actually, they'll be able to confirm more stuff of what I'm saying. But that's kind of interesting. And that's a lot of the AD carry changes. There are some removed items, things that Jinx never really used, like Spear of Shojin. Well, I don't get to use my secret Spear of Shojin Jinx build that was on the PvE when it wasn't melee only. No, wait, that was the other item. Never mind. I had a build with Spear of Shojin. I'm not gonna get into it. It was kind of spicy, but it was also really bad. So there we go. Kleptomancy, in case anyone out there was using Kleptomancy on Jinx, it's being designed differently. There's some new runes that are coming in, which basically every 30 seconds, I believe, you get like a different keystone. Some aren't available because some would not work pretty well. Conqueror is getting changed, and the simplistic, the very oversimplified version is that it's basically like old Fervor of Battle coming back in a way that might be a little bit more balanced, possibly. Aftershock, I don't think anyone really used Aftershock Jinx, like just go Aftershock into Precision and that way you have some more defenses in lane, I guess, something like that. I know it was something that people experimented with very briefly at the very beginning of the preseason last year with the Flame Chompers as a means to have more of a defensive option in lane for Jinx, not really for the Aftershock though. So I don't really see that happening still. Presence of Mind, that's something that people kind of debate, depends on the elo. That could be good on Jinx. Nimbus Cloak is a thing that I don't think is really used either. Basically, we're getting to the point where not allowed. Oh wait, Senna. Never mind. Hold on. Senna no longer gains double stacks on ARAM. Okay, that's a pretty straightforward one. On ARAM, if she was getting double stacks, it's a very narrow lane. That actually makes a lot of sense. I think Twisted Treeline stuff. I actually did play over 100 games of Twisted Treeline, so I'm about to get all these up in here. I hope Valmaw comes back in some aspect too, because as much as I don't like spiders, Valmaw for some reason he's kind of like the one cool spider, I guess. Maybe because he looks like more of a lobster with a giant spider butt instead of like a full-on spider. But anyways, they put a lot of work basically into like the update, so I hope some of the assets basically get to be used, because they did work hard on those, and that'd be kind of disappointing if they couldn't. The Essence Emporium's coming back, and that's apparently going to have a bunch of cool stuff in it. Maybe some Jinx-related stuff in it. I don't know yet. But that's kind of the end for the patch notes. Of course, there's the True Damage skins. There's the Pulsefire Thresh skin, which I don't know. That actually kind of looks like a pretty fire Thresh skin, in my opinion, anyways. And then the Victorious Aatrox stuff. So that's the gist of all the changes that will be coming to Jinx, kind of like the AD carry class. And so what we can do is kind of theory craft then, right? Because already it's begun on the Jinx subreddit. I saw a post. I want to say... hold on 1 second. I could just go here and just check real quick. Who was it on the subreddit already? Jinxie Doodle Dandy. Thank you, by the way, for already having this up, because this is something that kind of was interesting, right? Like, they haven't played in months, but they were looking at the crit changes, and their thoughts is you rush Infinity Edge, which probably will still be good, then double Agility Cloak, and then finish Ruon's Hurricanes, and then into Rapid Fire Cannon, or finish Storm Razor even. That's actually also an option too. What adjustments should you make? Will this patch be good for Jinx overall? Here's my, I'll put it this way, I'll go factual and then I'll give my hot take for those that are like, okay, I appreciate you trying to be unbiased, but be biased for me. Tell me something spicy. I'll do that in a second, but my unbiased take would be like, I actually like this idea. I like the idea of rushing the Infinity Edge and going the double Cloak of Agility, depending on how often you back in lane, right? Because one of the things that I kind of was, I kind of talked about, you know, the snowballing, power spike, etc., etc. But what I also really like is, like, if you're playing in a lane where you get, like, forced out of the lane a couple times, you're not necessarily losing the lane, like, you're not dying, but you get poked down, you have to back before you really want to. 800 gold is probably going to come to you a lot faster than 1300 gold in those scenarios. So you can still kind of get some pieces of what you need, right? Like, let's say you get the Infinity Edge, and like laning phase is still going on, and you can't really farm very well, whatever, the enemy's starting to scale, they're a mid-game kind of duo, whatever, you can still get Cloak of Agility and sit on those and still build those into Zeile items, and then build those Zeile items into Ruon's Hurricane and stuff like that. So what I'm basically thinking is, it could be a good patch because I think Jinx has options here. The options might not obviously be like the #1 S tier AD carry still, like she kind of is one of the most powerful AD carries in the game, but she still isn't like gutted. She has no hope, no future, no dreams, no tax returns, no healthcare. Like, I think there's actually stuff there that we can work around with if, you know, assassins being, you know, end up being very heavy and stuff like that. I don't think basically she's going to be like the bottom gutter tier AD carry, because I think she has different directions she could go. Storm Razor is something they mentioned in here, for example, right? They can go Storm Razor. That could be something that could be pretty interesting too as well. So because of these options, I think I do agree with Jinxie Doodle Dandy here. The changes could be huge. Not automatically going to be huge, but like, especially with how many good Jinx players there are, let's be real, we're gonna figure something out one way or another, right? So that's my kind of factual thoughts. My hot take is I actually think Jinx is going to be one of the best AD carries on this patch. Probably not the best AD carry on the patch, but I think she's actually going to be really good, because I think people are going to want to play around with Rift Herald, at least for the first patch of the preseason, and like knocking down towers, in which case she's a demolitionist. Her, Tristana, things like that, but obviously Jinx is better than Tristana and Caitlyn. This is a Jinx video and a Jinx subreddit stuff, so I'm going to say that. But I actually think Jinx is going to have like a niche in the preseason. Again, maybe not the best champion, because maybe lethality AD carries come back with all the lethality items, but I do think she's going to be actually a pretty like sleeper OP, but not necessarily OP AD carry on this patch. So thank you so much for watching this video. The usual YouTube outro, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.